San Andreas game, which has sold more than 5 million copies, is rated M for mature. In theory, that means you're supposed to be at least 17 years old to buy it, but the reality is very different.
2004 was a magical year for video games. Regardless of the console you own, you had an array of new sequels to choose from. But the one game everyone just had to have back then was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. San Andreas to this day is still regarded as one of the greatest video games of all time. But it was also the game that attracted the most negative attention for Rockstar and Take-Two up to that point. No doubt you heard about the nefarious hot coffee mod created by an outside party for the PC version of San Andreas. The mod would unlock a hidden sex minigame that was originally developed using the same source code found within the PS2 version of San Andreas. As a result, Take-Two and Rockstar had to answer the charges of lying about the original rating of San Andreas, which had originally been rated M for mature. Additionally, they had to face these charges under a class action consumer lawsuit and an investigation conducted by the Federal Trade Commission. Leading the inquiries at the time would be a few familiar faces, along with the notable Senator of New York at the time, Hillary Clinton.
According to the most comprehensive statistical analysis yet conducted, violent video games increase aggressive behavior as much as lead exposure decreases children's IQ scores.
Regardless of all the controversy surrounding Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the game would still become the hottest selling video game of the early 2000s. And through its expansive 3D world, extensive missions, mini-games, new mechanics, and customizable features, well, it would set a new precedent for all open world video games. So within this retrospective, let's examine what makes Grand Theft Auto San Andreas such a great game. Before we get started, thank you all for the likes and the comments. As you can guess, this channel has grown a little. I never imagined I would be at over 300 subs, so thank you. And I hope to grow that number and eventually meet my long-term goal of 1,000 subs. If you would like to be a part of that growth and join this awesome community celebrating classic games from the 6th console generation, feel free to subscribe. And now, let's get gangsta with it.
There are games that are just not appropriate for children. There are games that are just not appropriate for children.
Mystery now, who put the sex scenes in San Andreas? The company that makes the game, Rockstar. Company that makes the game, Rockstar.
Sorry, lady. It's my audition tape for the A-Team. Check out what I can do.
Organized effort against gangs. Just as in a previous generation we had an organized effort against the mob. We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. And the president has asked the FBI to launch a very concerted effort against gangs everywhere.
Oh yes, the old super predator theory of criminology. It wasn't a well-regarded theory, but it was used as a campaign initiative to direct attention to the escalating amounts of street crime that characterized the 1990s. What is a super predator, you might ask? Well, it's basically a hyper-violent male, usually black, who commits crimes on a regular basis without showing any bit of remorse. Some names like Willie Horton might be familiar to you. Back in the 1980s and 90s, the news media would use the image of Willie Horton and the super predator in order to direct public attention to the growing numbers of street crime and drug violence. Who would have guessed that this hyper-violent individual would eventually become the star of a little video game known as Grand Theft Auto San Andreas? Following the massive success of Grand Theft Auto Vice City in 2002, Rockstar North went to work on creating the next installment of the Grand Theft Auto series, San Andreas. Upon developing San Andreas, Rockstar probably had the biggest window of time in completing the game. as the other two had pretty short deadlines. With the extra time, the team was able to create a functioning 3D world using the same renderware game engine that encompassed around 36 million square miles. Not only will the game be expansive, but it will also feature two states, one being a fictional California and the other being a fictional Nevada, and both states would be connected through an extensive highway system and desert terrains. This was more than just another violent action game released with the Rockstar logo. Rather, it was a game that demanded and encouraged exploration. Of course, I don't want to take away from the violence the game offered. The early trailers for San Andreas provided plenty of glimpses into the level of violent and illegal acts the player would be committing. And when the game was released in October of 2004, it would go on to sell 27.5 million copies worldwide. And if you were lucky enough to play this game back when it came out, you took inventory immediately of just how much more different and immersive the game was. Beginning with the story, San Andreas was set in 1992 in the fictional city of Los Santos, inspired heavily by the real-life city of Los Angeles. In this game, you play as Carl Johnson, a former gangbanger from the Grove Street family of Los Santos, on his way home to bury his mother, who was recently killed in a drive-by shooting. After leaving the airport, Carl is confronted by crash officer police forces, led by the corrupt officers Frank Tenpenny, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and Eddie Pulaski, played by Chris Penn. The crash officers blackmail Carl for the alleged murder of a cop, and with that being done, they can call on Carl to do their bidding whenever they want.
So what else you got shaking, Carl?
Nothing. I live in Liberty City now. I'm clean. Legit.
Nah, you ain't never been clean, Carl.
Well, what do we got here?
This is a weapon, Officer Pulaski, that was used to gun down a police officer not 10 minutes ago. Officer Pendlebury. A fine man, I might add. You work fast, nigga.
You know I just got off the plane.
Well, that's a good thing we found you and retrieved the murder weapon.
That ain't my gun.
Don't bullshit me, Carl.
Yeah, don't bullshit him, Carl.
And if things aren't bad enough for Carl, well, he later finds out that his former gang is a shadow of his former self. After attending a funeral with some old friends, such as Big Smoke, played by Clinton Powell, his brother Sweet, played by Faison Love, and Ryder, played by MC8, the crew gets ambushed by their rival, the Purple Ballers. Later on, Carl finds out that the Grove Street family has been losing territory to the rival Ballers. Faced with the possible threat of extinction, the Grove Street family has to turn to Carl Johnson to turn the tide. So as Carl Johnson, or CJ, he basically must take over the hood, at least at first anyway. Like other GTA games, you start off by doing small jobs that range from minor crimes to large-scale, high payout jobs with increased difficulties. And the further you get through the story, the more the 3D world you unlock. Story-wise, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas did a lot to engage the player more with the main protagonist. With the other main characters, such as Claude Steele and Tommy Vercetti, we really didn't get too much into their backgrounds. Both of them seemed like just random tough guys who were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But with Carl Johnson, it was a little different. We got more than just a slick character voiced by rapper Young Melee. For one, he wasn't an outsider like Claude Steele and Tommy Vercetti were within their respective environments. Rather, Carl was a local gangbanger who was the product of a displaced minority community of Los Santos. He was someone whom a lot of us could relate to, someone who grew up in the hood and had to deal with police harassment and the daily struggles of keeping a family together. And truly, that's what made CJ such a memorable character. He wasn't just some random tough guy off the streets. Instead, he was a real human being with his own issues.
It just ain't right you seeing some cholo motherfucker.
Oh, what? A no-good, narrow-minded, hypocrite gangbanger telling me what is right and what is wrong? Let me guess, sweet. Senseless killing right, but a boyfriend from the south side wrong?
Some things ain't just meant to happen. I mean, what if y'all have kids? Leroy Hernandez? That don't sound
His
good,
name
girl.
ain't Hernandez.
Well, Leroy Lopez
or
then.
Lopez either, you racist fuck. That ain't how moms raised us.
I ain't racist, I just know how they feel about you. And look at you. You dress like a hooker.
Oh, and I guess you two would know what a hooker look like, huh?
You say it like it's a bad thing.
Shut
up, Carl. I'm just trying to protect you.
For what? So I can date one of your mindless friends? I don't think so.
Don't say a word, Carl. Just follow your sister before you see another dead sibling. Then you know exactly what my problem is. She's meeting him at some cholo car club.
It's never really clear why Carl left in the first place, but it could have something to do with the death of his younger brother 5 years ago, Brian Johnson. I always considered that Brian Johnson, who we never actually see in the game, was the victim of a drive-by shooting meant for Carl, but that's just an idea.
Things are going real bad. Here, let me show you Running Man. Tony's buried over there. Little devil over there. It's big devil over there. Man, it's just crazy. Everybody blasts on food first, then ask questions second.
And pretty much it's based on the fact that the local gun dealer, Emmett, accidentally mistakes Carl for his younger brother within the cutscene of one mission. If you are not convinced, that's okay, it's only a theory of mine.
Aren't you Beverly Johnson's boy? That's right.
Brian, say, ain't you dead?
No, Emmett. The other one, Carl.
I'm sorry about Beverly. That's why we're here, sir. We want to get the people who did it. Well, you come to the right place. Try anything you like, more. Man, look at this old shit.
What really made the story engaging was the setting. In this game, the development team decided to set the game in another non-contemporary location with plenty of satire potential. In this case, the team sought source material from 1990s California, described by many as one of the most troubled and divisive times in California history. So in drawing inspiration from this time, the team decided to take another road trip just like they did to Miami when developing Vice City. This time they took a trip all throughout California, the cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. In doing so, they noted features such as the architecture and landscapes. They even worked in some time to visit Las Vegas, which is also featured in the game. Within designing the three cities, Los Santos, San Fierro, and Las Venturas, they connected it with a vast series of terrains. The development team was also able to diversify the gameplay, along with introducing new characters and missions to perform and designing 3 cities.
We all the same, Carl, you, me. We all trying to pull ourselves out of the hole. Somebody steps on me, I gotta step on you.
Where's Hernandez with that fucking meat? He's been gone too long, Tenpenny.
Getting a little edgy, fellas?
Oh, how you like that, you piece of shit? That give you any idea how edgy I am?
Whoa!
Get up, bitch!
In essence, the game captured many facets of the 90s, ranging from the clothing styles, music, and particularly gang culture, beginning with the depiction of the Crips and Bloods gang feud represented by the Grove Street family and the Ballers. And if you grew up with hood cinema films like I did, such as Boys in the Hood, Friday, and Menace to Society, you'll recognize various actors from this game.
Me? That does it. That's game null and void, motherfuckers.
So, what kind of guns we working with now?
One time came through, raided the spot. We ain't got shit now.
Well, what you gonna do if the ballers roll through? Throw shoes at them? Say, what happened to Emmett?
Emmett? Shit, gangs these days got Macs, AKs, and all kind of stuff. Emmett, on the other hand, ain't got shit.
Well, until we get that plug, we gotta deal with a cat that always been there for us.
Emmett, Seville Boulevard families. We ain't too close these days, but nonetheless, I'll take you to see him. Get ourselves strapped up. Come on, man.
Nigga, shake him up again.
I particularly remember this being the one and only time a GTA game had a majority African American cast and an African American protagonist. It didn't seem that important back then, but I don't think it's exaggerating in saying that there weren't a lot of African Americans back then starring in video games.
Looking real technical, gangster. You ain't run over forgetting yet? No, gangster. I'm here for good. Yeah? Well, fuck this gig, man. I'm putting together a listening party for my album. But first, I need a sound system. Hey, I'm down as long as I don't have to go to the port. What you talking about, fool? Guaranteed I start playing, everybody will come through. Being real OG, I really ain't into rap no more. I'm more into that hardcore gangster shit.
In designing the game, Rockstar included a system of leveling up your character. By holding down the L1 button, the player can now pull up an ability sheet that displays different abilities that can be upgraded over time. The more you do something, the better Carl's abilities will be. And to me, this was probably the biggest change. If you wanted to make Carl better at shooting weapons, you had to practice by either going to the firing range or shooting random people. If you wanted to increase your driving ability, you had to practice driving. Most importantly, if you wanted to increase Carl's stamina, fighting abilities, and overall sense of well-being, well, you had to visit the gym. Of course, being that this is a Rockstar game and Rockstar wanted to give the player as much freedom as possible, you could ignore all these beneficial minigames and just make Carl fat. This was the first time Rockstar included an intuitive way to increase the main character's stats. Whether you're doing missions or just messing around, you can level up Carl regardless of what you decide to do. The further you get into the story, the more of the world you unlock, and CJ looks less and less like a run-of-the-mill gang member, and more like a mercenary for hire.
We out! Hey man, what's up? Yeah, keep driving, man. Making you an accessory today. This guy's an amazing driver. Look at him. Woo! Yeah. This is what it's all about, y'all. Seriously, this is what it's all about.
In making CJ the ultimate character, Rockstar gave him a few other skills. No longer could landing in the water be an automatic death sentence. And he could even climb up walls at a reasonable height, making police chases that much more engaging. He also had a wide variety of minigames, whether they be experienced through dancing or playing pool at the local cantina. They all served as adequate distractions. You also had the traditional vigilante, paramedic, taxi, and fireman side missions that could be used to earn money. But you also had the inclusion of some more notable gameplay features, like the ability to burglarize homes and take part in lowrider competitions. And if you didn't feel like doing any of that, well, you could just grab a set of wheels and explore the beautiful California countryside. Perhaps my most favorite feature of this game was the inclusion of gang warfare. Within the first part of the game, you'll have the option to help the Grove Street family reclaim their lost territory. Basically, this has the player riding to rival hoods, shooting ballers or North Star Bargos, and surviving multiple waves of enemy gangbangers. As you gain more territory, the map will get greener and greener. Now, there's no reward for completing the territorial takeover, but it's still satisfying to rid Los Santos of all rival gang members. I believe most of us would agree that GTA San Andreas probably offered the most realistic experience at the time for any open world style game. But the level of realism showcased in GTA San Andreas came at a price. Now, if you recall the last video, then you'll remember that Rockstar and Take-Two were giving negative media attention to not just graphic violence depicted in the game, but also the explicit sexual content featured in the game as well. Now in GTA 3 and Vice City, the player could hire prostitutes and get their rocks off, virtually anyway. The decision to have prostitution in the game was seen mostly as a joke at the time and wasn't taken seriously since the NPCs never actually touched each other, despite money being exchanged. However, in San Andreas, well, Rockstar once again set a new bar in terms of game realism. With the release of the PC version the following year, one fan and programmer by the name of Patrick Wildenbar was somehow able to enable a minigame that allowed players to physically engage in sexual acts.
Hey man, you got any San Andreas mods?
Shh, man, be cool, dog. There's fuzzies all around. I got it right here, dog.
It all seemed like just a joke back then. We didn't consider that this was the first time that the act of making whoopee was ever featured in a video game. When news of this mod surfaced, Rockstar was pretty silent on the matter. Technically, they were responsible since Wildenborg did pull the original source code from the PlayStation 2 version of the game. Hot Coffee couldn't exactly be accessed by the player in the PS2 version due to the game's built-in censor flags, but at the same time, they couldn't have possibly predicted that someone would use this code by chance and discover a way to hack their PC version of San Andreas. Many people at the time sure enough did not take this as a joke. In the US, Rockstar was forced to change the game to an adults only rating, not to mention re-release the PS2 and PC versions of the game. But by this point, plenty of people had played it or seen it. The controversy really began escalating in 2006 when an 86-year-old grandmother purchased the PC version of San Andreas for a 14-year-old grandson. And by this time, the Hot Coffee mod had been widely available on the internet. Once grandmother Florence Cohen of New York found out she went to work in her attempt to file a class action lawsuit against Take-Two Interactive for violating the consumer protection laws and misrepresenting the game's content, meaning that they never disclosed to the consumer that there was indeed a sex game within the game itself. Florence Cohen would seek out unspecified damages for herself and various other people who purchased the game, claiming that the game was falsely advertised. In filing this lawsuit on the behalf of Cohen was the attorney Lawrence D. Poskowitz, who stated famously that no parent would knowingly buy an adult-only video game for their children. While the work on the class action lawsuit was in the works, Rockstar also caught the attention of the Federal Trade Commission during the summer of 2005.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and agree to the resolution? Those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no. Members will record their votes by electronic device.
And around this time, the House of Representatives had actually passed a resolution for the FTC to investigate Take-Two and Rockstar for their alleged manipulation of the rating system.
Representatives that the Federal Trade Commission should investigate the publication of the video game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas to determine if the publisher intentionally deceived the Entertainment Software Ratings Board to avoid an adults-only rating.
And leading the charge behind this resolution was then the current Senator of New York, Hillary Clinton, who claimed that the companies gamed the system's rating by concealing sex scenes in the game that can be unlocked using programs on the internet. And this year, the GTA San Andreas sexual scandal resulted in a proposal for the Family Entertainment Protection Act, introduced by Senator Hillary Clinton, along with being backed by Senator Joe Lieberman.
Yet we know that such games are easily accessible. A recent study by the National Institute on Media and the Family found that children between the ages of 9 and 14 were able to purchase M-rated video games nearly 50% of the time. Furthermore, nearly a quarter of retailers didn't even understand the ratings they were supposed to enforce. And only half of the stores surveyed trained employees in the use of the ratings. Well, we need to do better, and that's why we're introducing the Family Entertainment Protection Act. And let me be very, very clear. This legislation is not about government censorship or regulation of content.
If passed, the bill would have made the enforcement of the ESRB's rating system a federal mandate, and it would have imposed a heavy fine on-site store managers of GameStops and Walmarts nationwide. Geez, no wonder why it didn't pass, and thank God. In this case, they were treating Grand Theft Auto games or other adult-rated games as if they were selling alcohol or tobacco. While the law didn't pass, it did help further accumulate to a larger class action lawsuit that would be built up from 2005 to 2007. Following Senator Clinton's involvement, another more familiar face also voiced his opinion.
In a world of make-believe battles, Jack Thompson considers himself a real-life warrior. The conservative Christian attorney says he is on a mission to protect children from evil.
Yeah, did you really think I wasn't going to talk about good old Jackie Boy in this video? By 2005, Jack was being Jack, frankly. Instead of just attacking Take-Two and Rockstar, Thompson was also going after several other game developers for a number of violent video games released within the year. Following the proposal for the Family Entertainment Protection Act, Florida State Attorney Jack Thompson eventually wrote another statement, this time to the various politicians and media outlets, attacking the Entertainment Software Association for allowing Take-Two to continue their supposed unethical practice. In this particular letter, Thompson attacked the ESA president, Doug Lowenstein, personally, stating that Lowenstein could have prevented the hot coffee mod scandal from surfacing. With the GTA hot coffee mod surfacing, Thompson then decided to continue his campaign and once again attacking GTA Vice City, stating in another email to the ESRB that the hidden sex scenes can also be found in Vice City as well. I highly doubt that. All the while, Rockstar and Take-Two still stuck to their guns and denied all faults in the alleged allegations. And what ensued was a prolonged legal struggle with various parties, one being ironically the city of Los Angeles. Yeah, the very same city which the developers drew inspiration from and designed Los Santos actually sued them. But like the previous allegations, the charges were gaming the system and not disclosing the hidden sexual content that can be accessed.
I need some hot coffee. Hot coffee indeed.
Now, it might have been seen at the time that Rockstar and Take-Two had their backs on the ropes in this instance. But let's keep in mind that this was a AAA game developer. By 2004, they were raking in millions, and not just sales of GTA games, but other classics as well. Naturally, their solution to the whole sex scandal problem was to A, throw money at the problem, and agreeing to refund all games labeled with the M rating for the next 2 to 3 years, and B, deny all allegations regardless of how many people pointed the finger at them. All of this concluded with Take-Two agreeing to a preliminary settlement to the class action consumer lawsuit. Under this settlement, Rockstar had agreed to disclose all adult content relevant to the rating system. They also agreed to pay $11,000 for every time they violated an agreement. Overall, I would say that Rockstar made out like bandits, given that many people actually used their refund for GTA San Andreas towards a new copy of GTA 4. And with that said, we bring the GTA Retrospective series to a close. Or is it? Yeah, that's right, I plan on doing a retrospective series on the other 2 GTA games released for the PS2. But until then, thank you for watching this video. This one really took a long time to make, and I thank you all for your patience. Also, thank you for helping me grow this channel. We are well over 300 subscribers right now, and that number is growing steadily. And basically, it's all up to you, the viewer. So thanks for all the support, comments, and likes. If you know anyone else who loves video games from the 6th console generation like we do, well, you might want to tell them to subscribe. Peace out, y'all.
Often the kinds of kids that are called super predators.